TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories. In a retaliatory response for the International Criminal Court's decision to investigate the U.S. military for alleged war crimes in Afghanistan, among others, the Trump administration announced a series of sanctions against the court. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres informs the world body's Security Council that debris of weapons that were used in several attacks against Saudi Arabia last year were of Iranian origin. The Islamic Republic's judiciary announced that it sentenced a man to death for allegedly providing information to the CIA and the Mossad on the whereabouts of the former commander of the IRGC's Quds force, Major General Qassem Suleimani. The United States will no longer stand by as its people and those of its allies around the world, including Israel, are threatened by the International Criminal Court, or ICC, which has been increasingly subject to allegations of both corruption and politicization of international law. U.S. President Donald Trump signed an unprecedented executive order last night authorizing the imposition of economic sanctions against ICC officials as part of Washington's retaliatory response for the International Court's decision earlier this year to investigate alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in relation to armed conflict in the territory of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan since the 1st of May 2003. On April 12, 2019, the ICC rejected a request by its prosecutor to investigate alleged crimes committed by U.S. forces in Afghanistan, highlighting in its ruling that it would not serve the interests of justice as it viewed prospects for a successful investigation and prosecution extremely limited. Less than a year later, however, the ICC's appeals chamber unanimously amended the court's decision, yet failed to cite any reason for the change of heart. ICC prosecutor Fattah bin Sauda immediately welcomed the amended ruling while urging for full support and cooperation, despite knowing full well that her investigation does not have any jurisdiction vis-à-vis the United States and its military, as Washington is not a signatory of the Rome Statute, which grants the ICC its required international mandate. Nevertheless, the ICC prosecutor does not appear less determined to pursue justice, which she intends to attain in cooperation with Afghan authorities, who are ranked 173rd out of 198 countries in the International Corruption Index for 2019.
In the independent and impartial exercise of its mandate, my office welcomes the opportunity to engage with all parties to the conflict to advance its investigations. In this respect, I particularly look forward to continuing a constructive and collaborative exchange with the government of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan to determine how justice may best be served under the shared framework of complementarity, domestic and international action.
A little over 3 months after the court's decision to investigate whether U.S. forces committed war crimes in Afghanistan, the United States has followed through on its pledge to retaliate against the ICC's politicized conduct.
Good morning, everyone. We cannot and we will not stand by as our people are threatened by a kangaroo court. And indeed, I have a message to many close allies around the world. Your people could be next, especially those from NATO countries who fought terrorism in Afghanistan right alongside of us. The Trump administration is taking the following actions. First, we're authorizing the imposition of economic sanctions against ICC officials directly engaged in ICC efforts to investigate U.S. personnel or allied personnel against that allied state's consent, and against others who materially support such officials' activities. Designations will be made on a case-by-case basis against specific individuals or entities. And second, the United States is expanding visa restrictions for officials directly engaged in those same investigations. We're extending and expanding these restrictions to include their family members. It gives us no joy to punish them, but we cannot allow ICC officials and their families to come to the United States to shop and travel and otherwise enjoy American freedoms as these same officials seek to prosecute the defender of those very freedoms.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also highlighted Washington's grave concern vis-à-vis the court's conduct towards Israel.
We're also gravely concerned about the threat the court poses to Israel. The ICC is already threatening Israel with an investigation of so-called war crimes committed by its forces and personnel in the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip. Given Israel's robust civilian and military legal system and strong track record of investigating and prosecuting wrongdoing by military personnel, it's clear the ICC is only putting Israel in its crosshairs for nakedly political purposes. It's a mockery of justice.
The American top diplomat referred to the ICC prosecutors' efforts to investigate Israel for a seemingly predetermined position over whether the Jewish state had indeed committed war crimes and crimes against humanity in the Gaza Strip, West Bank, and East Jerusalem.
In brief, I am satisfied, 1, that war crimes have been or are being committed in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip. 2, that potential cases arising from the situation would be admissible. And 3, that there are no substantial reasons to believe that an investigation would not serve the interest of justice.
It is important to explain that the so-called war crimes the ICC prosecutor refers to include Israel's construction of settlements on lands the Palestinians demand for a future state, which the international community perceives as illegal. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, in response to the Trump administration's decision to sanction the International Criminal Court in The Hague, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu voiced his praise for President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, while subsequently highlighting the absurdity of the ICC for claiming that Jews living in their historic homeland constitutes a war crime.
First, I want to congratulate President Trump and Secretary Pompeo for their bold leadership in sanctioning the corrupt and biased International Criminal Court. This kangaroo court is a politicized court. It's obsessed with conducting witch hunts against Israel, the United States, and other democracies that respect human rights, while turning a blind eye to the world's greatest abusers of human rights, including the terrorist regime in Iran. The ICC fabricates outlandish charges against Israel, outrageously claiming that Jews living in their historic homeland constitutes a war crime. Ridiculous. Shame on them. And once again, America, thank you for standing up for justice and for standing up for truth.
In response to the American move, the International Criminal Court released a statement in which it expressed, quote, profound regret at the announcement of further threats and coercive action, including financial measures against the court and its officials. The statement further asserted that it stands firmly by its staff and officials and remains unwavering in its commitment to discharging, independently and impartially, the mandate bestowed upon it by the Rome Statute and the states that are party to it. Subsequently, EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell declared the European Union as a steadfast supporter of the International Criminal Court and reiterated Brussels' unyielding support to this institution.
For sure, this is a matter of serious concern, as you can understand, because we, as European Union, we are steadfast supporters of the International Criminal Court. I think that for sure I can reiterate our support to this institution.
Now in other news, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres informed the World Body's Security Council the debris of weapons that were used in several attacks in Saudi Arabia on the Aramco oil facilities and the Riyadh International Airport last year were of Iranian origin. In a document circulated among member states of the Security Council, Guterres further confessed, quote, these items may have been transferred to Yemen in a manner inconsistent with UN Security Council Resolution 2231, which was the only document that provided legal backing for the 2015 nuclear deal with the Islamic Republic that sought to limit Tehran's nuclear ambitions in exchange for international sanctions relief. Iran's mission to the United Nations in New York did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Meanwhile, in Tehran, the Islamic Republic's judiciary announced that it sentenced a man to death for allegedly providing information to the CIA and the Israeli Mossad on the whereabouts of the former commander of the IRGC Quds force, Major General Qassem Suleimani.
اخیراً فردی به نام آقای سید محمود موسوی مجد فرزند سید کاظم که هم به سرویس موساد وصل شده بود و هم به سرویس CIA و در قبال اخذ دلارهای آمریکایی برای اونها در حوزه‌های مختلف امنیتی و به ویژه حوزه نیروهای مسلح من جمله سپاه پیروزمند قدس و همچنین محل استقرار و ترددهای سردار شهید حاج قاسم سلیمانی اطلاعاتی رو جمع آوری کرده بود و در اختیار سرویس بیگانه قرار داده بود، با حکم دادگاه انقلاب اسلامی به اعدام محکوم شد و شعبه 19 دیوان عالی کشور هم اخیراً این حکم رو تأیید کرده.
It is important to emphasize that the Iranian court did not provide any proof of the voiced allegations against the man, and TV7 was unable to immediately corroborate whether these allegations have any grounds. Thank you for watching us. As part of TV7's Global Prayer Initiative, I would like to encourage you to join myself and the team here in Jerusalem to pray today for the salvation and peace of Albania, alongside our ongoing prayers, of course, for the peace of Jerusalem, the salvation of Israel, as well as for all those who are impacted by the corona contagion worldwide. I'm Jonathan Hassan. Have an Erev Tov and Shabbat Shalom. We will see you again on Monday at the same time.